Hashem, today's daf is Masechta Baba Kamma Daf Mem Tes. We will begin from Daf Mem Ches Omid Beis by the Mhichnis Rishus. Just going to finish off the sugya of yesterday, and then we'll start a brand new Mishnah with interesting topic. The Gemara begins. Itma we learned. Rav says Hilchasa Ketana Kamma. The halacha is like the Tanakama said that as long as the owner says to somebody, come into my property, you could put your pots in my property, that's enough. That statement enough requires the owner of the property to watch the pots. Shmuel says that's not enough. Hilchasa Rebbe. The halacha is like Rebbe, that the owner, the property owner, does not take responsibility unless he says, bring your pots in, put it here, and I will watch it. So it's a machlekes what the Rav and Shmuel. Do you have to explicitly say, I'm going to watch it? Or according to the Talmud Kamma, the fact that you allow somebody to bring pots into your property, that's enough for you to be required to watch the items. Tana Rabbanan, the rabbis taught. And this brisa is going to seem to say that first part of the brisa seems to hold like Rebbe. Second part holds like Rebbe. So let's see. A guy says, bring your ox into my property and you should watch it. Hizek chayv, huzak potter. If the ox does damage, the guy that brought it in is obligated to pay. And huzak, if it got damaged, potter, the owner of the property is not liable. Here he says, bring your ox into my property and I will watch it. Huzak chayv, hizek potter. Then the guy, the owner of the property, is responsible if the shor does damage or if it got damaged. So the Gemara says, Hagufa kasha. This brisa seems to contradict itself right from the beginning to the end. Amrit, you say, it's only because the Reisha, where the person said, you watch it, you owner of the shor, you should watch your own shor. Hostama, but if he didn't say you watch your own shor, he just said, come, bring your shor into my property. Then the owner of the property is liable, and the owner of the shor is not liable. The bestama, by just asking somebody to come into your property, that's basically saying mekabel aleini turusa. You're obligating yourself to watch. Ema seifa. Let us take a look at the end of the brisa. Kinoi sharcha, bring your ox into my property. Va'ani ashmerenu. Here you said it clearly. I'm going to watch it. It's only because you were very specific and very clear. Bring your ox in, and I will watch it. Then the owner of the property is liable. But if he just said, just bring your shor into my property, and he didn't say, I'm going to watch it, then the Baal Shor will be obligated, and the Baal Chotza will not be obligated. Because he didn't, just by asking somebody to come into your property, doesn't mean you're accepting upon yourself to watch it. Until you accept upon yourself to watch it, the owner of the ox is required to watch. So, Reish Rabbanan and Sefer Rabbi, will you have a situation that the beginning of the brisa is Rabbanan and the end of the brisa is Rabbi? How could it be? One brisa has two authors. Amar Ablaza Tavra, you break up the brisa. Misha Shanazu, Leish Shanazu. Very interesting. Some brisas were written by two different people, and then they merged into one brisa. So yes, the beginning of the brisa is the Rabbanan, Sefer the brisa is Rebbe. Rava tries to squeeze it in. Kula Rabbanan. Everything is Rabbanan. And really, the end of the brisa should not say, you don't have to say, I'm going to watch it. But I did an Osef Reisha Shemara, Tana Sefer Vani Eshmereni, because the beginning of the brisa says, oh, you watch your own shar. So therefore, it says at the end of the brisa that he said, I'm going to watch it. But technically, if you ask somebody to bring his ox into your property, even if you did not say, I'm going to watch it, you're still the owner of the property is going to be liable, because the whole brisa is according to Rabbanan. Rav Papa says, Kula Rebbe, just the opposite. The whole brisa goes according to Rebbe. He holds like Rav Tafin. When Karen happens in the courtyard of the nizik, you pay full damages. Hilkach, therefore, he tells the guy, you watch your own ox. So therefore, he's not giving him rights to bring his ox into the courtyard. He just said, bring your ox here, but the courtyard remains mine. And therefore, therefore, if your ox will damage my ox, you're going to pay 100% of the damages. But but if he did not say, I will, you should watch it. By not saying, I'm going to, you should watch your own shar, then it becomes like he said, okay, you could bring your ox in, and not only that, part of this property belongs to you. So therefore, it's like Karen in a happening in a partnership, and therefore you're not going to pay only chatzi nezek. So therefore, the end of the brisa is exactly. And Reisha don't make any diak, because really you have to say va'ani ashmerenu. But the Reisha of the brisa is teaching you other dinim. Okay, new Mishnah and new topic. We learned in the Chumash. I'm just bringing up the Chumash over here. The Chumash says in Parshas Mishpatim, if two people two people are having a fight, and one of the wives of the people having a fight stood by her husband, and the other person whacked the pregnant lady, the yotzu yuladeha, and caused her to miscarriage. So then you have onish yonish. You pay money for the miscarriage. It's not like you killed somebody. You just caused somebody to miscarriage. Okay, but if you killed the lady, then the Torah says nefesh tachas nefesh. You kill that person. Okay, that's the pasuk. That's the pasuk. So now, very interesting. Then, the Mishnah is going to teach you that since the Chumash only says when two humans are having a fight, and one caused the lady to miscarriage by slapping her, by hitting her, so then only then you pay for the mevalades, the miscarriage. But the Mishnah is teaching you, if the shor was aiming at somebody and then whacked into a woman and caused the miscarriage, you don't have to pay the mevalades. A miscarriage is not worth anything. So therefore, the Torah does not require you to pay the value of the embryos. But if a human that was aiming at somebody else and then hit a pregnant woman and caused the miscarriage, mishalem de mevalades, you pay the value of the embryo. Kates and mishalem de mevalades. How do you pay for the embryo? You don't say, oh, how much is a baby worth? How much is the woman worth? No. You say, Shamanis Isha Kama hi yafa achla yolda, the Kama yafa bishiyolda. How would you look at a woman that is on the slave market? And how much is she worth when she's pregnant, where the owner, the purchaser has potential to have a baby and maybe a baby slave? And how much is she worth before she was a woman that's not pregnant? And that's how you value the value of the mavel. Yeah, the baby, how much the baby inside of her. But there's also, I'm going to teach you that tell you that there's also the woman herself, when she's pregnant, she looks more, there's a glowing look to her. She looks more prettier in the time of Chazal. That you also have to pay. And according to the Tana Kamma, that extra, not the Demei Velades, the Shevach Velades, the enhancement of the look of the woman because she's pregnant, that also belongs to the husband. But Rab Shimon ben Gamliel says, here we go to Mentes Amnal, in K, Mishiisha Yeledis, Mishabachas, Elashamanis of Ladas came in Yafim and Nice Labal, the Shamanis of Yaladas coming Yav and Nice Labal. So according to the Rab Shimon ben Gamliel, you don't give the shevach of the shevach of being pregnant to the husband, because it's very risky to buy a woman that's pregnant because she may die. So therefore, Rav Shimon ben Gamliel says you just pay for Demei Velades and you don't pay for Shavach Velades. That's what he's saying. If so, when a woman gives birth, she gets more valuable. When a woman is pregnant, she's less valuable. El Shamanes of Velades coming up nice on the bottom. You just do Demei Velades, the value of the embryo, but you don't give the shvach of how the shvach Velades to the husband. We're going to see about that in the Gemara. The main labal, nuth ges. If she has no husband and the guy owes the may velades, nice in the yarshav, you give it to the kids. You give the money to the kids. Potter. Let's say there was a ger married to a gioris, or an eved and married to a shivcha. Basically, they're gerim, and you're obligated, and there was demei velodos over there. Somebody was required to pay demei velodos, and the ger died. When a ger dies, there's nobody to give the money to, because nobody inherits a ger. So potter, then the one that perpetrated the damage to the demei velodos will not be obligated to pay. So let's see. First, we learned in the Gemara. We learned in the Gemara that the Mishnah that says that a shor is not obligated to pay for the may velodos, for the embryos. But the Mishnah only says that if the shor was focusing on somebody else. But if it's mashma from the Mishnah, you could imply from the Mishnah that if the shor was directing his damage to the woman, then he would pay the mevelodos. Wouldn't this disagree with Rav Ada bar Hava? The Omer of Ada bar Hava, shvorim shniskavnu liisha, an ox that had intention to gore a woman, peturmid mevelodos, is always potted from the mevelodos, because the Torah only said only if a man causes a miscarriage, you pay for the mevelodos, not an ox. So why does the Mishnah say if the shor was only focusing on somebody else, then you're potter from the mevelodos? Which implies that if it was focusing on the issue, you would be obligated to pay for the mevelodos. That even if the shor was intending to gore the woman, it would also be potter from the may velodes, the value of those embryos. Why did it say that if the ox was focusing on somebody else? I did the korban the misna seifa adam shemiskav lechaveira the kra, because the Mishnah is rephrasing what the pasuk says, that the one man was aiming at another man and he hit by accident the pregnant woman. So therefore, since the end of the Mishnah says that it was talking about a man who was focusing on somebody else and hit the woman, Tana Reisha, same thing. That's why it says in the Reisha, Shar Shoy Miskavan Lechaver, an ox was focusing on somebody else. But who then? The halacha would be any ox that causes a miscarriage does not have to pay. End of story. Amar Rapapa said, sometimes an ox will be required to pay for the mevelodes. Wow. If it caused a miscarriage, it's only by a certain case. Shar shenogach, as a shivcha, says Rapapa, a shar that gored a maid, b'yotzi ladeha, and caused a miscarriage, b'shmalim mevelodes, then you do pay the mevelodes. My tama, what's the reason? Because a shivcha really doesn't have a husband. She really just it's like you're damaging the money of somebody, and you're damaging like a pregnant animal of somebody, and therefore, and just like when you damage a pregnant animal, you have to pay for the mevelodos. So if you damage a pregnant shivcha, you would have to pay the mevelodos. So it's very interesting. We view the shivcha as if she is like a donkey that's pregnant. A shivcha is very similar to a donkey in a certain sense in halachas, and therefore there would be a din of the mevelodos if the ox gored a shivcha. If an ox gored a regular from Jewish lady and caused a miscarriage, you would not pay the mevelodos. Only a shivcha you would pay the mevelodos. New part of the Gemara. So the Gemara asks a question: the mevelodos shvach velodos malaylei. You should also have to pay, as I spoke out in the Mishnah, that there are two parts to a woman that's pregnant. One, her embryos, and two, that she looks better, she looks more robust, and she looks healthier. And there's a certain value to a woman who, like, how much would you pay for a woman to have a makeover? So just by being pregnant, she looks better. So that is worth money. And if another man caused her to miscarriage, he should pay the may velodos and shvach velodos. And says the Gemara, you're right. That's what the Mishnah means. You pay both the may velodos and shvach velodos. So so what's Rab Shimon ben Gamliel arguing? As I said, Rab Shimon ben Gamliel says you don't pay shevach velodos. Why? Because the fact that she's pregnant is a very risky thing. So she's worth less when she's pregnant than when she's not pregnant. That's the machlokes between Rab Shimon ben Gamliel and the Tanakama. My Kamma. Amar Rabbi said, Hachi Kamma. V'chi isha mishabechas koidim sheteled yosim al acha sheteled. If a woman is worth more before she gives birth than after she gives birth, I think just the opposite, says Rav Shimon ben Gamliel. After a woman gives birth, she's worth a lot more than when she does give birth, before she gives birth. You just do pay for the Demei Velades and you give to the husband. This is exactly we learned in the Brisa. That's exactly what Rav Shimon ben Gamliel says. That's the first opinion of the Gemara of how to explain Rav Shimon ben Gamliel, and this was Rabba's statement. Rava says no. Hachi Kitani. Rava is going to say that the shvach v'lados, the robustness that she has, you split that between the husband and herself. In other words, the Demei V'lados you give to the husband. Shvach V'lados, according to the Tanakama, you give to the husband. According to Rav Shimon ben Gamliel, you split that with the woman. Rava with the wife herself. Does she only show her appreciation in value to her husband? She has no of the appreciation of her value. She has no part of that. That is part of that should belong to her. The kids inside of her, the value of the kids inside of her, that you give to the husband. But her value, her appreciation in value because of her looks, that she's pregnant, cholkin, you'll split that with the husband and you split that with the wife. We learned this. So that you give to the woman. The Demei V'lados you give to the husband. V'shavach V'lados cholkin you split. Now, here the Gemara just asks the direct question. The direct question is, what does Rav Shimon ben Gamliel hold? Is a woman worth more when she's pregnant or worth less when she's pregnant? It seems from the two different brises that it's a disagreement what Rav Shimon ben Gamliel holds. Kasha de Rav Shimon ben Gamliel, Rav Shimon ben Gamliel. The first brisa seems to imply that a woman who's pregnant is worth less, according to Rav Shimon ben Gamliel. Second brisa says no, she's worth more when she's pregnant. How do you reconcile that? Like Kasha, Kam b'malakeres. If it's the first time she's giving birth, she's worth less because she's at risk. She never gave birth before. She could die. Therefore, she's worth less. But when did Rabbi Shimon Gamliel say that a pregnant woman is worth more? Is she's already proved herself by giving birth? This is not her bechar that she's giving birth, and because of that, then she's worth more. So she gets the Demei V'lados and Shevach V'lados. The Demei V'lados, of course, goes to the husband. The Shevach V'lados go split it. So says Gemara, Rabbi Shimon Gamliel makes perfect sense. Rabbanan the Amri Shevach V'lados Nami L'Baal. My Tama, what would be the reason? According to Rabbanan, Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says Shevach V'lados means that's her. That's like Nezek or her Nezek. It's not totally the husband. Why would Rabbanan say, oh no, you give that to the husband? Answers the Gemara, Torah tells you that the woman was pregnant, that she miscarried. So why does the Torah tell you, oh, by the way, she was pregnant? If she miscarried, she must have been pregnant. Why did the Torah say she was pregnant? To teach you, that the appreciation, because she's pregnant, even though it's her value that goes up, her figure, her face, her appearance increased in value, it still belongs to the husband. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says, who you split that with her, and she gets a part of that payment. What does he do with the pasuk hara? He needs it like the following brisa. You're not requiring to pay. You don't require the guy to pay if he caused a miscarriage, only if he slapped her in the stomach. Then he caused a miscarriage. As opposed to if he slapped her somewhere else, then he's not obligated to pay for that miscarriage. Papa just corrected it. Doesn't mean he slapped her on the stomach. Anywhere you slap her on her front, which causes the embryo to move out of place, then that he's required to pay. If you kicked her in the knee or the foot or the hand, obviously, even though that may have caused the miscarriage, but it wasn't directly on the front of her body, on where the baby is located, and therefore you would not be required to pay for the mevaladis. Okay, the Gemara said like this: if a ger was married to a gearis, okay, let's have it straight out. A ger was married to a gearis, and someone damaged her and caused the miscarriage, and then the ger died. The ger died. So then you could keep the mevaladis. The guy that caused the miscarriage doesn't have to pay anybody because the ger died. Amar Rabba explained, that only if you caused the miscarriage while the ger was alive, the husband was alive, and the ger died. Since the money really belonged to the ger, the husband, and therefore when he died, a ger that dies has no yorshim, and therefore the kiva the base ager zachabu min ager. So since the ger died, the guy that did the damage could get to keep back his money because he has no one to pay. But listen to this: let's say the ger and the gerus were married. She's pregnant. The ger died, and then you damaged and caused a miscarriage. Who are you going to pay the miscarriage money to? To the wife. Then you'll have to pay her because she herself gets to keep the money of the miscarriage. But Rav Chizda says that's Rav Chizda is a fantastic machlokas. Rav Chizda says Mardichi. Is that your opinion? Is that what you say? I don't think so. He said the fact is that the mevaladis belong to a husband. Is that something that when he dies, now he gives her the right to collect the mevaladis? Is that like a bag of money that she's getting as an inheritance from her husband? Ella, no. The Torah is very unique, and it can't figure this out. Ella Isa, if the husband was alive, the mevaladis zachalei rachmana, then the husband gets the mevaladis. Leisa labal, but if the husband died, there's no the mevaladis over here. That's what the very interesting thing. So if the husband died and then you caused the miscarriage, you don't have to pay. So the Gemara asks a question, Meisvei, from a brisa. A man whacked a woman and caused the miscarriage. Right? You pay the demei v'lodes to the husband. Ein habal, let's say the baal died nice and yarshiv. You pay the demei v'lodes to the kids. Ein ho isha, if there's no woman, let's say she's ein ho isha, if there's no woman over here, nice and yarshiv, you give it to her inheritance. And we're talking about in a certain situation where she got divorced. But this is the point. Let's say they were married to a ger, zocha. That means he gets to keep it. Whatever the guy who did the damage doesn't have to pay. Even after the ger, even if the ger died and then he caused a miscarriage, he doesn't have to pay. That is the opinion of Rav Chizda. And but this is a question against Rab. Rabba said that if the ger died, then the demei v'lodos, if you caused the miscarriage, you have to pay the woman. This brisa seems that you don't have to. Amrei. So Rabba will answer you. Mi adifa mimasnisin. Is this brisa a more difficult question than our Mishnah? Daikinim shechava ba b'chaya ger or meisa ger. That we'll learn this brisa that you did the damage in the life of the ger and the ger died. Yeah, same thing that you learned in the Mishnah. But if the ger died and then you caused the miscarriage, yes, you would have to give it to the woman. If you want, I could tell you that the brisa is actually talking about la'acha misas ger. You caused the miscarriage after the ger died. And it says zacha, you could keep it. No, utni zachsa, that the woman keeps it. That means you have to give it to the woman. We're on Amud Beis. Leimikatanoi, would you say that there is a machloikis tanoim? There is a machloikis tanoim in this scenario. In what's the scenario? Again, we're talking about over here a ger married to a gioris, right? And then the ger died, and then you caused a miscarriage. Someone caused the miscarriage. Does he have to pay the woman for the miscarriage, or no? The Torah says that only if there's a husband around, you pay for miscarriages, not when the husband is not there. So lemekatena, and this only works with a ger, because a ger, after he died, inheritors. But if it's a regular Yisrael that died, so then his kids will inherit the right for the Mevalades. So lemekatenoi, let us say it's machlekes tanoim, bas Yisrael shnisas agavan is Abram men of chovel babachaya ger, noisen the Mevalades lager. La'acher misas ager. Let's say, here's the point. La'acher misas ager, a guy caused a miscarriage after the ger, the husband died. Tanachada, one brisa said, Chayev, you still have to pay to Mevalodis. Obviously, since the ger is not around, the husband's not around, you're going to pay it to her. Or Tanachada, and one brisa says, Potter, you don't have to pay it. My love, wouldn't you say, Tanoi? It's exactly a Tanoim, and Machlekes Tanoim. One says you're obligated, one says you're not obligated to pay. Answers the Gemara, Lo Rabba, Vade Tanoi. According to Rabba, I'm going to certainly say that it's a Machlekes Tanoim. Ella Rav Chizda, mi lemetanoihi. According to Rav Chizda, that there is no demei velodos once the husband dies. Would you say it's a machlekes tanoim? It should be, because one says you're obligated to pay. So loy kasha, it's not a question. Harabanan harab Shimon ben Gamliel, and this is another minute. Harabanan harab Shimon ben Gamliel. The brisa that says that one brisa, it's talking about shevach, the shevach of the Vlados, the Shevach of the Vlados, like we explained. So the Brisa says you potter from paying. The Brisa says that you potter from paying is because it's talking about Shevach Vlados, never goes to the woman. The Brisa says you have to pay. Shevach Vlados belong to the woman. That's why you're obligated to pay. So the Gemara says, "I Rab Shimon Gamliel shvach v'lodos ma'ir la'chamisa afilu mechayim nami isla palga." Even when she's alive, you have to pay. Even when he's alive, the husband's alive, you have to give something to her. So why does the Brisa say only when she dies, only when the husband died, the ger died, then you have to pay her? Why? And says the Gemara, that's the chiddush of the Brisa. Mechayim isla palga. When he is alive, then the shvach v'lodos, you only have to give her half. Palga la'achamisa, but after she died, kula, you have to give her 100% of it. That means she inherit the shvach v'lodos after her husband died. And then the Gemara is going to explain another second. If you want, I can tell you it's not a machlekes. Hava Rav Shimon ben Gamliel, kam b'shvach v'lodos, kam b'mei v'lodos. Both are talking about Rav Shimon ben Gamliel, and one says chayev because it's talking about Shevach Velodes. One is talking about Potter because the Demei Velodes. And the Demei Velodes, once the husband dies, there is no Demei Velodes. But Shevach Velodes always belongs to her. So the Gemara asks, Amrei, Mishevach Velodes, Lishma Demei Velodes, Lishma Lerabonim. Basically, what we're saying is, you telling me that Shevach Velodes, and this is the last question. You're telling me Shevach V'Lados, the woman inherits from her dead husband. Now she can collect 100% of the Shevach V'Lados, right? So why don't we say the same thing by Demei V'Lados? When her husband dies, she should be able to collect Demei V'Lados. And the same thing, Rab Shimon Gamliel says that, Lishman Rabbanim. That let's understand, let's hear it, that even according to Rabbanim, Demei V'Lados, when the husband is around, belong to him, but when he dies, she should be able to collect it. Why is that different? In other words, why Shevach V'Lados, after he dies, she gets 100% of that Shevach V'Lados, whereas the Mei V'Lados, she cannot inherit that. And the Gemara answers finally, Amrei, loy Shevach V'Lados, loy, not so. Shevach V'Lados, the Shaykh Yoda Begave, Zach B'B'Chulai. When Shevach V'Lados, when he was around, she always had a piece in it. She had 50%. So when he dies, she could collect the other 50%. The Mevalodis, which we explained is the value of the embryos, she never had any partnership in that. That always belonged to the husband. And when the husband dies, the ger dies, she gets no part of that at all. Okay, so this is where we'll stop. The Gemara continues and just ends off this sugya with a question. Again, we're talking about a ger that dies, really. His assets are free for grabs. So Rav Yeva Sava asked the question from Rav Nachman. Somebody who's holding on to documents belonging to a ger, which means that the documents say that the ger lent somebody money, and in case the guy doesn't pay back, the ger has a right to foreclose on his properties. Maho, what's the din? So since obviously when the ger dies, you can't foreclose on the other guy's properties because man de machzik b'shtora adaita de aruhu de machzik. He means he's carrying the documents, and he is thinking that one day I'm going to foreclose on this property. Uva'ara halei machzik. When he is holding on to the shtar, he still didn't foreclose on the property, and therefore the property he certainly doesn't have. Even though, because it's now the owner of that property gets to keep his property, because once the ger died, so he's the first one to hold on to his property. Ushtar nami loikana, but the guy holding on to the shtar will not even get the paper. The lava daita the shara. He wasn't thinking about keeping the paper. Or dilma daita nama shtara. Or maybe when a person's holding on to the paper, he's saying, okay, although I can't foreclose on the properties, but let me at least keep this nice piece of paper. So this was an odd question that Rav Yeva Sava asked Rav Nachman. Can he keep the paper after this worthless piece of paper after the ger died? Amalei, so Rav Nachman asked him, Ani Mari, Vichi Lotzer Al Pitz Duchasa. Why would anybody need a piece of paper? Does he need it to stuff a wine jug with it? Amalei, so he said Lotzer. Yes, maybe that's what he needs it for. So that's my question. And so therefore, you see how they were so careful about knowing who owns this piece of paper. The guy holding on to the stars of the ger, or maybe that's not considered enough of a chazak, and if somebody grabs that from him, he can keep the paper. Interesting question. Amar Rabba said, another question. Mashkoin shel Yisrael biad ger. The collateral belonging to a Jew that was in the hands of the ger, who lent the money, let's say, and now the ger makes a ger, the ger died. And another Jew grabbed that mashkin, then we call it back. Why? My tamas was the reason. Since the ger died, then the lien falls off the mashkin, and the mashkin reverts back to its original owner, the other Jew. But another case is mashkoine shel ger biyad Yisrael umeis ger. The opposite case, you have the mashkin of a ger, of the mashkin belonging to a Yisrael, that the mashkin of a Yisrael, of a ger in the hands of a Yisrael. Ubeis hager. Now the mashkin. Let's say the Jew is holding on to the ger's watch, and the ger, because he lent the ger money, and the ger died. Another Jew came and grabbed that watch. The lender owns part of that mashkin because that's where he was going to collect the money that he loaned the ger. But the rest of if the mashkin was worth much more than the loan, the other Yisrael that grabbed it, he gets to keep that. So the Gemara says, Va'amai. Why should it be that if another Jew grabs that mashkin, he's allowed to keep it? The Jew that was holding on to that mashkin, it's in his courtyard. It's in his property. How could somebody take it out of his property? And we know that something that's in your courtyard belongs to you. So it's originally belonging to the person holding on to the mashkin of the ger. The Rabbi Yossi Bachanina said, the courtyard of a person would acquire things on his behalf even without his knowledge. So we said like this, and we explained it like this: a courtyard doesn't always kaina something without your knowledge. It's only if you're in the city where you could potentially be kaina it yourself. The guy was out of town; he was not near his field or courtyard. So if he's in town, the iboyim mikne. If he wanted to be kind of the item himself, he could do it himself. Then his chotzer would be able to kind of something for him. But when he's not here, if he wanted to be kind of something, he wouldn't be able to be there because he's out of town. Then your chotzer will not be kind of. So we learned the big chiddush according to this Gemara that the chotzer of a person will only acquire items is only if you're in town where you could potentially do it yourself. But if you're nowhere near your chatzar, then your chatzar is not going to be kind of it for you. Therefore, this guy we're talking about was near his chatzar. So the mashkin that was in this chatzar was not his when the ger died. So therefore, if somebody grabbed it, he will get a piece of that mashkin above and beyond the value of the loan. The Hilchah said that, but the halacha is not so. A chotzer of a person who's always kaina, whether he's there, out of town, he could be in another country. And here we're talking about different. The leise b'chatzeroi. The mashkin was not in his chatzah. The loikane, he wasn't kaina. Mashkin was, let's say, left on public rishus harabim, and that's how that other guy got to take it. So therefore, the other guy can take it what it's worth above and beyond the loan. But whatever it's worth in the loan, this guy, the person who the mashkin was given to, has the right to collect that on behalf of the loan that he gave to the ger. Okay, we just finished Be'ez Hashem, Daf Mem Tes.